So we've just descended Mount Buller and entered the Mansfield State Forest via Carter's Road. This specific area has a pretty high density of huts in it, and those we are going to explore. First up is Tomahawk Hut, built in 1927 for road building crews, named after the nearby creek. Question is though, where's the level ground for the camping area? No, it's not up this track. The only thing you'll get up here is bent side steps. So this is it, the Tomahawk Hut. But with nowhere big enough to set up so much as a swag on a level spot, we carry on via number 3 road. Creative name for sure. It's clearly named for the Mount number 3 that it heads up to. Okay, whatever, we'll continue on. There's licensed cattle grazing in some areas of this state forest, so leave the gates how you found them. And so, after a lot of descending, we get to Pineapple Flat. Crossing the river, the demarcation point between the state forest and national park, we enter the campsite in the national park. And in the campsite we find some cows, which are not allowed to be in the national park. But being cows, this does not at all matter to them. So we set up camp and light an infuriatingly smoky fire, just like everyone else. You're not meant to be here.
Clearly you're doing it wrong, right? You should be using Vara, right?
Oh god, not you.
Sorry, I had to do it. Yeah, okay. I had an email from someone to ask them whether I can make Auto RX support a LoRa module. No. I did that whole...
In the morning, we headed a little back the way we came, before heading out onto Circuit Road. This is Craig's hut. This one is quite possibly the most famous of all of the huts, despite not even being a real one as such. Instead, it was built for the 1982 film The Man from Snowy River. Except that this is not that hut. After the filming was complete, that hut was left to fall apart in disrepair, and then afterwards it was partially rebuilt. But it's not that one either. Sadly, that whole thing was destroyed in a bushfire in December 2006, along with about 1.3 million other hectares of land in Victoria's longest running bushfire to date. Following this, it was rebuilt, and that's the one you see here now. So then, we head up Mount Stirling. The track was steep, twisty and narrow all the way to the top. I'm sure it'd be a great view up here if you could see anything. And at some point we passed the summit of Mount Stirling, not that you'd know. And at some point here we also passed GGS Hut, built in modern times by Geelong Grammar School for their use. I'd have shown you it if I'd seen it. And then, on the other side of the mountain, we descend. This is Howqua Gap Hut. Well, huts actually, there's two of them. One in much better condition than the other. The first one was built in 1968 as a base for logging operations in the area. And then, a brief check of the map. We're going to end this one here because Cornhill Road is closed. And then, number 2, We are going to begin number 2 from here. That's not the order or direction half of it's meant to be done in, but when half of it's closed, you've just got to make it up as you go along. Further down Circuit Road, it then becomes Bindaree Road, and we stop at Bindaree Falls. And in a quick demonstration of what shutter speed gets you, 1/500th and 1/50th. Wait, how many degrees is 1/50th at 30 frames a second? Then the diminutive Bindaree Hut at the oxymoronically named Flat Spur. Continuing on down 16-mile Jeep track, we come to Pike's Flat camping area. This, known as Pike's Flat Hut, or Murphy's Hut, it was built in 1970 as a grazier's hut by Terry Murphy. Flat is certainly right, as in flat pack, as it's very much a garden shed. There used to be a wooden structure adjoining it, but it was demolished in the late 90s as it had become unsafe. Near the top of the hill, we then turn on to the Bluff track. And on the Bluff track, we reach the Bluff Hut. Originally built in 1956 by Edley Stoney, Jack Ware, Ray Kelly and Archie Cameron. Sadly, this hut also burnt to the ground in the same bushfire as Craig's hut, but was rebuilt in 2007. This hut has over the years been used by many cattlemen, hikers, horse riders and four-wheel drivers. It's pretty large, and it's certainly one of the most iconic of the original huts. And so we carry on down the Bluff track. A little further down, we find the Bluff View lookout. And here we take the opportunity to view the view. And then there's Lovick's hut. This is also one of the original mountain cattlemen's huts, later used as a base for horse rides by Jack Lovick. The original was demolished, scheduled to be rebuilt, although a bit smaller than the original, after it developed some safety issues in 2003, so thus it escaped the 2006 bushfire, as the rebuild effort was actually only a few poles in the ground at that point. The rebuild was then repeatedly delayed, and as of 2012 it was finally rebuilt. If this one is indeed smaller than the original must have been pretty huge, because this one is definitely on the larger side as they come. And then the old oncoming vehicle. So that was fine, we passed each other there.
I don't think we can make it there.
Although somehow we managed to make it work.
I should have waited where it was, but I saw them come on and I'm like, oh, they must have a good spot.
No, they did not have a good spot.
And at the end of the ridge we find Picture Point, a good suggestion of what to do here. Yeah, this bit definitely qualified as a track and not a road. And along Brock's Road, we descend into the valley. It's then a steep descent down the upper Jamieson hut track, and there's a small river crossing at the bottom. Now this hut here is somewhat unusual. It features a mezzanine level on the inside, making it 2-story. And on the way out, that same river crossing in reverse. And there goes the other side step. And back up to the top, we continue on. 50 meters and yet 15 minutes was intriguing. Well, there's the bend. And there's the tunnel. Now along here there's a couple we've skipped. 8 Mile Hut is no more, 6 Mile Hut no longer exists. Gardner's Hut is privately owned and not open to the public, same with Pickering's Hut. So we're going to continue on to the next one, Fry's Hut. Appears that you no longer access it from here. So turn back around, head back to Sheepyard Flat Campground, and then we head up and over.
This area has been subject to recent widespread storm and flood damage, and decades of neglect.
And here it is, Fry's Hut. Now this one, unlike the others, wasn't just used on a temporary basis. This was Fred Fry's actual house, where he lived until he passed away in 1971. It's also one of the earliest, supposedly having been built in the 1940s. This one though is the last of the huts we'll be looking at. This has been by no means comprehensive, just a small selection of the ones we decided to visit. There are many more around here, and maybe we'll come back to visit them at some point in the future. So along here we follow the Howqua track, eventually making it back to Mount Buller Road, concluding our little loop. And that's all there is. Time to find somewhere to fill up.
Actually, I thought all diesel in Australia was low sulphur.
And this marks the end of our little adventure. So over the past 10 days, we've summited Mount Kosciuszko, walked in some snow in summer, visited Seaman's Hut, gone into the Urangabili Caves, camped by a lake, driven across a river into Victoria, visited a much more modern hut, summited Mount Bogong, visited Mitchell Hut, climbed around some rocks, climbed the Horn, swum in a freezing cold river, traversed the Guns Range, visited the famous trig point on Mount Blue Rag, visited Lanky Plain Hut, got caught in a storm on Billy Goat's Bluff, summited Mount Buller, and then visited several more historical places in this video. Next up, we've got another crack at Around the Bay, followed by something up in Queensland. Until then, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, and see you next time.